Welcome back. Today you find me in Glastonbury, Somerset. And last time I was here, I think it was 2001, 2002, which is over 20 years ago, obviously. However, the last time I was here in this town, there wasn't somewhere in the region of 100 to 200 caravans where people who are homeless are now living in them on the streets. And as the thumbnail says, this is the future for your children in the UK. I'm actually astonished that people are living in these caravans. You may not think it, but there are actually people living in these caravans as I film it. Now, if you was to take a dog and to place that dog in one of these caravans, and a police constable was to see that, you'd be arrested for animal cruelty. And yet, this is what the UK has come to. This is what it's coming to at the minute. Glastonbury is not the only place to have hundreds of caravans in its towns and cities. Another one is Bristol. Apparently there's something like 500 caravans, all parked around the area of Bristol. And growing. They say it's growing every single day. And it will continue to grow for the simple reason is, the company stats says that there's 310,000 people homeless just in England alone. And they say that 110,000 of that figure are young people between the age of 16 to 24. These are people that have absolutely no home, no hope, and no future in this country. I spoke to a young girl that's living in one of these caravans. I'd say she was about 18, 19, 20, that age group. From her accent, I think she's from the north of England, and I had a long conversation with her about certain things. And she told me that she's not working at the minute, and the Social Security give her £9 per day to live on. That's to feed herself, clothe herself, all of the other amenities that someone has to need just to live. £9 per day. And certain groups of people arriving in this country, getting everything handed to them, plus 5-star hotels. And she's born and bred in this country, and she has to live this way. So I asked her if there was anything that I could do for her, and she didn't really want anything. The only thing she needed was a battery, a car battery, for the lights in her caravan. So she didn't ask me, but I went and bought her a battery for her caravan. I thought it was the least that I could do. And I just want to say something to these people that help the homeless. If you help the homeless, do it because it's the right thing to do. Please don't sit there and film them, giving them things. It's degrading. These people are in a bad enough situation as it is already without you degrading them even more. Please don't do that. It's a horrible thing to do. The church here, it opens its doors once a week to help the homeless with food and clothing and stuff like that. And as I spoke to people in the area, people that own shops and so forth, I did find a sense of community here. One of the guys I spoke with that owns a shop in the high street, he says that it's a 50-50 basis here where some people want to live that lifestyle and other people are living it because they have no choice. But overall, I did get the sense that people actually were looking out for each other in this area. I didn't see much in the way of animosity. And when I spoke to people here, I didn't feel any fear in speaking with them. I didn't feel threatened. I was actually quite surprised, actually, when I came away thinking to myself that these people actually have built a community within a community. And I think that's the way forward for the UK. People going back to basics, going back to their communities, people taking care of themselves, their culture, their communities. I think that's the only way forward for places like England. You will have read this year that the company, this is actually the Blue Company, was spending £500,000 per day on renting empty hotel rooms that no one ever slept in. 500 million per day. That would be enough to build homes for all of these people who are living homeless in Glastonbury. And they're spending it on that. But of course, what people don't seem to understand is that this migrant situation is all by design. It's done to benefit the companies, whether it's the Blue Company or the Red Company, and the people who own them. Because you only have to look at who owns the hotels, who's providing the security, who's providing all of the amenities that these people are receiving. And it leads straight back to their friends. It's their friends who are making the money from the immigration situation. And the immigration situation is deliberate. It's orchestrated. It's designed. It's not an accident. They created it. And you've got people out there a few weeks ago voted for the same people who are implementing the exact same thing that the last Blue Company implemented. This immigration is never going to stop in the UK until the UK is completely and absolutely destroyed. That's the aim. It's to destroy England, the UK, and Europe. Figures just revealed stated that 1 million people in the last year came to live in the UK. That's not sustainable. You can't carry on like that. It's impossible. There's no way you can keep having 1 million people every year coming into your country. It's just not sustainable. And that's exactly the plan, to destroy the country. This week, I went to visit a friend of mine that runs a company on an industrial estate. And I got there early in the morning, about 6 o'clock in the morning. And when I got there, I noticed that a lot of cars had steamed up windows. And when I got speaking to my friend, he told me that most of the industrial area has got people living in automobiles, vans, state cars, you name it, they're living in it. And these people have full-time jobs and are living in vans and cars and automobiles just for somewhere to live in the UK in 2024. I saw a documentary last week about a police sergeant, an ex-police sergeant in the UK who was made homeless. He's living in his car, destitute, and he was saying that there's no one there to help him, no one there to assist him. And on that program, there was a doctor from Birmingham Hospital. He's living in his car, and he's a doctor treating members of the public, and he can't afford anywhere to live. He's living in his automobile. This is the country that England has become in 2024. And for me personally, it's just reminiscent of a third world country. This is what we're sinking into. And I can't see it getting any better. Not for 1 minute. The first video that I did that got 80,000 plus watches, where I referred to the UK and the USA as third world countries, I got a lot of backlash from people from both countries saying that this is not the case. However, when I look at both of the countries, I can't describe them any other way than third world countries. Councils aren't working, the police aren't working, the judicial system isn't working, and people keep voting for these people that just keep destroying their countries. Like I said before, I cannot understand anyone who votes. I just don't get it. It's absolutely pointless. It's meaningless to me. And as Mark Twain said, if voting could change anything, they just wouldn't let you do it. Not for a second. That said, I was going to spend Christmas in New York with some of my family, and I've decided against that because at the minute, New York has got something like 220,000 migrants living in New York that are creating crimes on a massive scale, and people are wondering why it's happening. If you bring third world people from a third world country into your country in the end will become a third world. That's just common sense. You don't have to be a professor with a degree to understand that. That's just a fact. And yet, people in New York were happy to call New York a sanctuary city. And now that they've seen the consequences of the sanctuary city, they want these people to leave. And I just don't see that happening. Even though Donnie says he's going to deport all of these people, I don't see it happening. I don't see Donnie doing anything of the kind because Donnie is only interested in Donnie and not the American people. Speaking of the Donnie and the MAGA Donnie fans, the backlash I received the last time I exposed Donnie for what Donnie is, Donnie's only interested in himself. And the people that believe he's going to change America are the same people that believe the last time he was president, he was going to change America. And he didn't. And he won't change America this time round either. Most Americans will never understand that there is no such thing as a president nor a constitution in the United States of America. It might have existed one time. It doesn't exist any longer. You don't have an election. You have a selection. But most Americans, you'll never convince them that their country is nothing more than a third world banana republic. They will get upset if you tell them that. And then you show them what's happening in other states in America, and they still won't accept that these people are destroying America as they're destroying England, as they're destroying Europe, and it's all part of a plan. 2 years ago, a newspaper in the UK ran an article about Sunak, who was then the Prime Minister, about visiting a healthcare company in America with the view of bringing the American system to the UK, because American companies have long wanted to get into the healthcare, the provisions of selling healthcare to the people of the UK. They've been trying to do that for a very, very long time. This week, a medical CEO was unalived in New York. And there's a lot of controversy about that at the minute, because a lot of people are saying that it was the correct thing to do, and a lot of people are saying it's the incorrect thing to do. Whatever your point of view is on that is your point of view. But the fact of the matter is that American healthcare is the absolute worst in the world. Americans are paying the exact same taxes, even more than taxpayers in the UK. And it's meant to be the richest country in the world, and it doesn't have a national healthcare system. It doesn't exist. People dying on the streets because they can't get healthcare or surgeries. That is a third world country. There's no mistake in my mind about that. This week, I had a dental emergency, and I rang a number of different dentistries in the area that I was in, and not a single one of them are NHS dentists. They will not do any work on behalf of the NHS. And I asked one of the receptionists why this is, and she said to me, they're just not paying the fees that the dentist needs to stay in business. So that's why we can't take them on. So, 400 pounds later on, I left the dentistry. But I was just wondering, how many people in the UK have got 400 pounds for an emergency like that? It can't be that many. In fact, half the working population in America don't even have $400 to their name. But you can see that the system that they have in America is the system that they're trying to implement in the UK. Everything that they do in the US, the companies that people vote for in this country want to implement. They want to implement the healthcare system, the tax system where you pay and you don't get anything back in return. They keep implementing the American dream. Now, if you've lived in America, you will know that the American dream, once you wake up to it, is an absolute nightmare. And I was surprised to see that this year, 12,500 British people have chosen to emigrate to America. I think once they're there for a while, they'll realize what they've moved to and probably move back home. That said, everywhere I'm traveling to at the minute, places I haven't been for a very, very long time, I'm not seeing anything but despair and a lot of mental illness. I can't describe that any other way than just that. There are people that should be receiving help from the local councils that they're in. They're not getting it because the councils are saying they don't have the money. But if you look at the councils and the council tax, you will find that most of what you pay in council tax is going towards their gold, platinum pensions that they get after 30 years. And that's something I completely disagree with. Just because you work for the government doesn't mean to say you should be getting a golden pension after 30 years. I think if you want a golden pension, you should get it from your own wages. I don't think that me or my children or your children should have to pay for them for the rest of their lives. It's something I completely disagree with. However, no matter where I seem to go, I'm just looking at rundown towns and cities, just rundown areas. And 20 years ago, the areas I visited then were completely different. I'm just wondering, where does this end? At what stage are the people going to say, we can't tolerate this anymore, we need to do something about this? Personally, I don't think the people will do anything about this. I think it's just going to get worse and worse and worse. And on that note, I'd like to thank you for stopping by. I hope you enjoyed. And I hope to speak to you again soon. Thanks a lot. Bye.